Hi, I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
We are here once again in your workshop, Adam.
Yep.
Today's topic is the lathe.
The lathe.
So first off, we should tell people what you use a lathe for.
Every tool in the world, in general, is for taking something large and making it smaller in precise and important ways.
Reductive processes.
Reductive processes,
Okay.
yes. So the lathe in a machine shop is one of the two tools that do that. The other one is a milling machine.
We'll talk about that later.
Yes. Now the lathe does it in a circular fashion in which you clamp something into a vise like this using these jaws, and when you turn it on, it spins that work.
Okay.
And then you can go and act on the work with various tools and cutters and shapers.
There are a whole bunch of different ones.
Yeah, that allow you to do all sorts of things. Now, a lathe is unique in a shop.
Why is that?
It is the only tool that you can use to build itself.
Oh, you can build another lathe from a lathe because all the stuff is round.
Yep.
Interesting.
More than that, if you want to actually machine surfaces with the lathe, what you can do is you can chuck a milling bit into the jaws, clamp your work to the cross-feed table, and use a lathe like a mill. A lathe is absolutely the only tool in the world that can build itself from scratch.
So this all answers the question of, if we have a 1,000th precision mill, how did we build that with a 100th precision mill or a 10th precision?
The only tool you can build itself with
Interesting.
is a lathe.
So it's like a von Neumann machine of the machine shop world.
Yes, exactly.
Well, there's a couple things that you've done recently to your lathe that are kind of interesting.
I want to say that, I literally cut my teeth on the lathe in Jamie's shop at M5.
They look pretty good.
His is what's called a tool room lathe.
Okay.
Which means it's a standard mid-sized lathe. It's a 14 by 40, which means it can handle a piece of 14-inch work here and operate on it over a 40-inch length.
Okay.
This one's made by a company in China called Shenhua. It's a Shenhua Chieftain is the name of this, and it is my favorite form factor for a basic all-purpose lathe. It's not too big, it's not too small. I know it's large, it weighs about 3,500 pounds, but for doing special effects work, this is pretty much exactly what any size effects shop is going to need unless they're doing really, really big stuff. I also like the name, Shenhua, S-H-E-N-W-A-I.
You've worn the label off, Adam.
I have worn the label off, but think about this. It's a Chinese company, and you know when you want to say Chinese in French, you say Chinois.
Yeah.
So apparently they've phonetically gone with the French.
It's the Chinese Chinois chieftains.
Yes.
Very good.
And basically, so yeah, all these dials over here are for doing things like micro adjustments in the speed of the lathe and the feed, so you can cut screws and you can even cut helical stuff.
So I mean, the main things that you can adjust with this are the position of the blade, the speed of the chuck,
and the speed of the feed. You can automate it. You can automate the movement of this.
I didn't get that far.
Oh yeah, it's
that
really
sounds
cool.
crazy. Yeah,
and can be quite dangerous.
Oh, excellent! Even
because
better.
if you look away from the lathe for a second, it can send something right through your head.
Right.
Lathes are terrifying.
They told us when we started, no dangling clothing, no long hair, no rings.
No, nothing. Nothing will stop. Nothing will stop this. In fact, right there is enough to get you banned from my shop.
Yeah.
Because if you turn on the lathe with that in it, it'll
fly across.
I've seen it go through a wall.
That sounds really, really scary.
So now,
not a toy.
Now, not a toy, although the best toy. Now, moving the tool is something you do, obviously in precise ways. You want to cut something off, you want it to be exactly 0.165 inches in length or something like that. So normally, you'd use dials. Now, on the edge of each of the
it's like a slide rule down there.
Yeah, so you can look down and you can actually set both in inches and millimeters how far you want it to move. But it's a lot of work to use the dials. And for the longest time, I used these is an old version of a kind of analog method. This is called a travadial, and you'd clamp this in, and it moves and gives you very high degree of accuracy.
Wow.
And
so you clamp it onto the rail, and as the rail moves.
The two rails.
Okay.
Yeah, and every lathe I've ever used has travadials on it.
Okay.
But recently I realized I could put digital scales.
So you took what was previously an analog, essentially, lathe, and made it digital yourself.
Yes.
This is interesting to me because I wouldn't have thought you could do this.
Yeah, well, it's not that difficult. So it's called DRO, Digital Readout. And what these are scales. These are called glass scales. They're sealed against dust and debris.
That's a good thing.
And they've got a piece of glass inside and a reader that moves. And the glass, I believe, has a pattern etched on it or printed on it, and a reader that moves past that can read with a very fine accuracy to the 10th of a thousand to a 10,000.
So it's like an optical mouse or something like that that just knows exactly what the scale it's moving on. That's
So
very
that
cool.
when you zero it out, right there, that's 4 10,000.
Did you move your hand?
What's that?
I didn't see you move your hand.
Okay.
Okay.
There's 1.2 thousandths.
Ever so finite movements.
We have a term in the machine shop for that, but it's obscene, and I won't say it here.
Okay.
So I put the 40-inch cross feed out here on the back, and it's actually bolted to the back. The nice thing about bolting stuff to machine tools is, while the ways and the key bearing surfaces are hardened steel, the rest is all cast iron. So attaching stuff to it, once you've clamped it in and you've got your positions right, isn't that hard. Plus, they sell the brackets for these with as slots, so that once you get it close, you can then use a micrometer to make sure that you've really dialed it in.
Okay.
So this took me about 3.5 hours to put the back feed and the cross feed here. The cross feed is still as yet unprotected.
Okay.
So I haven't yet done any work with cooling fluid in here. I'm going to put a aluminum sheet over this, so it is much more prominently protected from
sealed.
splashing fluids.
That makes sense. And I mean, the thing about a lathe, they're not terribly expensive. I mean, it is an expensive piece of equipment, but it seems like the harder thing is having a place that's big and heavy enough and can support a 3,500 pound thing than it is to actually go out and buy a lathe on
Well,
on
you know,
Craigslist
I found
or
this one
eBay
on
or whatever.
Craigslist. It was I had been looking for this kind of lathe for a long, long time. The 14x40 tool room lathe was my ideal form factor, and when I found this one, you can easily buy one of these for $10,000. There are lots of places resell them, and that's easy. I managed to find this one for $3,000.
Let's see. So not outside the realm of possibility.
Not outside the realm of possibility. It needed a little work when I got it, and you know, it was missing a couple of key parts, and I also had things like, this is a quick change tool post, so I can swap out tools really quickly.
That's a really handy
I don't
thing to
have to
have.
unclamp, and that's it. It's just ready to go.
Yeah.
So I've built this machine up pretty much like all the special effects shop machines that I've ever used, so it's built for speed. One of the things about my shop here is I only get to work here a few hours a month. So when I come in, I want to make the best use of my time,
of
which
course.
is why I invested in something like this.
If you have 3 hours a month, you want to get every minute of those 3 hours.
Absolutely.
So this is a high torque, low horsepower motor, right?
I think so.
Is
Here,
that the way
this
this
is
works?
fast. Ready?
Yeah. And if you had the chuck in there, Joey would be dead right now.
Yeah. But what this has is a foot brake that
So if you-
automatically. So I'm actually built. If I use a lathe that doesn't have this and I want to stop it, I literally start doing
Start
this
stopping.
like someone who drives a stick getting in an automatic, right?
Very cool.
That emergency stop is totally key to a machine this powerful, because there are times when you put on the feed and you've set it too fast, and this starts racing for the chuck.
Yeah.
And when big chunks of machines like this hit each other, they can just tear itself apart.
So yeah, this is a lathe, I guess.
This is my baby, and now I love the luxury of the digital readout on the lathe. I've never operated one with such a nice layout before.
Well, and it's funny because you don't really appreciate how important it is to just be able to re-zero constantly. You cut something off, you re-zero. You cut something off, you re-zero. You cut something off, re-zero.
Exactly. I'd come up to this, I'd make a mark, and rather than having to add, I just keep going to, let's say, 1.4, then 0, then I go back to 1.
Exactly.
There we go. You know, and just keep on.
You know
doing
exactly
it.
where you're at.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Adam. We'll be back with more from the Man Cave later. Until then, I'm Will.
See you later.
Bye.